Hello and welcome to the Newsroom with Sana. Today we're going to be taking a look at three important stories. The first is a very important discussion, of course, with reference to Pakistan and Afghanistan's issues that was earlier also held between the two countries in Doha and now, of course, in Istanbul. And it seems that the third round of talks are not inching closer to a particular way forward or a deal as to what exactly will be sought, with the defense minister making it clear that if these talks fail, it will be an open war against Afghanistan. It is important, of course, to take a look at what it is in the current situation, the terms and the challenges that are being discussed at the moment. The ask is simple, that the Afghanistan soil is not used against Pakistan and the safe havens provided to terrorist organizations is not done so. And so this is something very, very integral to Pakistan's fight against counterterrorism and very important for these talks to move ahead as well. Our next story, we're going to be taking a look at what is happening, of course, as part of the neighborhood what Pakistan has been observing since 1947 is the Black Day on the 27th of October, when Indian military forces entered into the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And this is something that since then the people of Kashmir are suffering from, and their right to self-determination has not been granted to them. And on top of that, of course, back in 2019, we have also seen in August that again unilateral action has been taken to revoke the special status of the disputed territory, and because of that even more troubles are there, and of course many other issues including draconian laws and the oppression at the hands of the Indian military forces, which is condemned, and it is something that Pakistan calls on the international community to remember and to make sure that there is justice. And lastly, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming meeting between the US President and the Chinese President, and it's going to be an interesting one, particularly with reference to the economic and trade relationship between the two countries, and especially since what we have seen on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit seemed to be some sort of thawing, with the US officials also talking about how the way forward on the 100% tariffs of Chinese goods is something that is no longer there. And so because of this statement, there seems to be a possibility from the Chinese side also warming up to the US on this regard. What exactly would that mean in terms of what is settled and agreed upon remains to be seen. But the US side is of the opinion that they have formulated a proper framework for the two leaders to earlier decide, with the Chinese side not really commenting on the situation. So we're going to be taking a look at what that means and how exactly the countries are going to take this forward. Starting off now with our first segment, of course, in terms of the Istanbul conversations. This is important in terms of how the two countries are going to go ahead and deal with the current scenario. For that, we've been joined in the studios by Mr. Hassan Khan, who's an Afghan affairs expert. Thank you very much, Hassan Saab, for being part of the newsroom today. I'd like your take on these talks, particularly in terms of understanding the people of Afghanistan, understanding the issues of Afghanistan, and then, of course, understanding the Afghan Taliban regime. It is integral for Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban regime to understand that this is a reassurance that was given by them, and it is a basic right of any country to be protected by their neighbors from terrorist organizations. Yet we see that there is a support that has existed for the safe havens. There has been elements that are facilitating the terror networks that exist in Afghanistan. So how do we make sure that these talks do succeed? Because we're on the third day and we don't really see any possibility of a way forward at the moment.
Thank you very much. I think you rightly mentioned that Pakistan has a lot of concerns from Afghanistan. The Afghan soil is being used by various terrorist syndicates, particularly those against Pakistan, like the BLA, Majid Brigade, and the TTP, and some other splinters group of the TTP. Yes, Pakistan, I think, responded very hard when it was on the 8th of October, when in Orakzai and DA Khan, some of our brave soldiers were martyred in the terrorist attack, and we responded the next day, hitting the terrorist hideouts inside Afghanistan. And then you know what happened. That was that is a bad story when both the countries almost went to a war-like situations. However, thanks to the two friendly countries, Qatar and Turkey, they intervened, and we got engaged in talks. And the first round was in Doha, when Pakistan delegation was led by the defense minister Khwaja Asif, and the Afghan side was led by their defense minister Yaqub Umari. And on that day, we were pretty sure that good things are coming out of it, because the ceasefire was enacted, and though it was not a permanent ceasefire, Pakistan say it is a temporary arrangement. And then and it was on Saturday, and you rightly said that today was the third day, and we were pretty sure that something will come out of it, because the Afghan side was reporting, especially the Afghan media, they were reporting positive outcome of the today's talks, and the Afghan delegates who are currently engaged in Istanbul talks, they were giving a feelers to their media that we are closing to the conclusion, and shortly we will have a press release type of thing, or a joint communique, where they were saying that almost the only problem was the monitoring issue. Yeah. Otherwise, we agree on the information sharing. We agreed that the soil of both the countries will make it sure that their respective soil is not used against the other. However, I think when I was coming to your show, and I tried to search out if there is anything new, so it's the old story. It's the morning story. Yeah. That the talks were held, and nothing is coming out. And I think this is not an easy subject, particularly for Taliban, and especially the current structure of the Taliban regime. This TTP is now part and parcel of their organizations, of their regime, and mostly their internal differences also make the market price of TTP a bit high inside Afghanistan. No doubt Pakistan has drawn red lines that whenever in future we face any terrorist attacks which are being orchestrated from across the border, so our response will be swept, our response will be clear and will be targeted from wherever we are receiving the attacks are being managed. So I think now the situation, both the countries are in a process to convince the Taliban that, look, you have to wean yourself away from a terrorist networks, or you may lose this opportunity also, like you won in 2001, just for the sake of Al-Qaeda. They pushed the entire Afghanistan into a 20-year war, which I think millions of, hundreds of thousands of lives were lost, billions of destructions happened inside Afghanistan. The mother of all bombs were used on the Afghan side. Yeah. I hope this time Afghan Taliban will definitely think that is it a fair price for them to pay for keeping these terrorist networks, and the ultimate price will be paid by the people of Afghanistan. But we are still, I think, looking forward to the Istanbul process, because the two countries, they are very much sincere friends of Pakistan and Afghanistan, both the Turkey and Qatar, and we hope in their mediation, something will definitely come out of it. And this is a positive thing, the talks are still continuing.
Absolutely. And I'll continue with you discussing with regards to what really is influential, or the part of convincing the Afghan Taliban regime. But let's also welcome in the discussion Dr. Vişne Korkmaz, who is the international relations expert at Istanbul Nişantaşı University. Thank you very much, Dr. Vişne, for joining us and being part of the newsroom today. I'd like your take on how you think the talks have been moving forward, and particularly the role of Turkey in this regard. As we were just discussing, countries like Qatar and Turkey have been very, very integral in at least making these talks a possibility and helping move this discussion forward. And so, as an important partner of Pakistan as well, how do you think Turkey can play a major role in mediating these talks?
Okay. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for hosting me, and good evening from Istanbul. As you mentioned, the conversations and this mediation issue between Pakistan and Afghanistan is so important and born from a kind of necessity. It is necessary because, I mean, this kind of warlike situations are not limited to just skirmishes and has always risk of spreading. So, and nobody wants another source of instability in this highly fragile and important region. And in that case, that is why also Turkey and Qatar are so sincere to mediate and facilitate any kind of rapprochement and settlement between two parties related to this latest issue that led this escalation and skirmishes. On the other hand, there's also a necessity because I mean this kind of situations need um, neutral, sincere, and experienced mediators. I mean, mediation process uh, can be seen more important than the strategic results that we talk at the beginning of the occurrence. And you know, Turkey and Qatar has certain experiences in this region. They had relations with Pakistan. Pakistan is a very important country in Muslim world, very close to Turkey and very close to Gulf countries. So, I mean, they actually have interest to stabilize the relations between Pakistan and any of its neighbors. Turkey and Qatar has also experience in grant. They have I mean, they witnessed the transition from, I mean, uh, another phase of Afghan war to today's situation. So they are experienced actors. Also, Turkey has special um, expertise in mediation efforts, especially between the actors who has um, distrust, mistrust, miscommunication, misinformation, and I mean negative legacies because of numbers of historical reasons. So I mean Turkey and Qatar can really help in this situation, but the conversations cannot be seen as simple, I mean, easy issue. I think the mediation efforts, 3 days long mediation efforts, have concentrated on 4 issues, 4 topics. They are interconnected and very important. The first issue, as you mentioned before, related to ceasefire. Ceasefire should be in act, should be ensured to be in act, and then 2 sides can reach, or we hope they will reach to point to ensure mutual um, non-aggression or commitment to mutual non-aggression. Uh, we know that this issue is related to border security and territorial integrity, security of territorial integrity, and fight against terrorism. So it is very critical. I mean, the conflict is on the one hand is related to very critical issues like this. Uh, Border issue has a long history because of colonial legacy, etc., etc. But now it is related to security and fight against terrorism and TPP issues. So
Absolutely. So, Dr. Vishnu, this is important because Pakistan has been speaking about these terrorist organizations and unfortunately paying a huge price against this fight as well. We have this very important report coming in as well, saying that the safe havens exist, saying that they are being facilitated by the Afghan Taliban regime. And of course, Pakistan is concerned of the Indian involvement in the region as well. So when we take a look at these core issues of terrorism and the fact that Pakistan is raising its voice against it and is also a victim of terrorism, how do countries like Turkey support Pakistan's fight against counterterrorism, and what do you think the international community needs to do about it? Because this is not just Pakistan's problem.
yes, that's true. And also, I mean, you know, Turkey and Pakistan has a kind of alliance among each other. I mean, it's a strategic understanding, let's say, if not, I mean, strict defense alliance. And Pakistani stability, territorial integrity, and security is important for Turkey. And I mean, throughout years, I think Pakistan has developed very successful strategy related to its deterrence. We can see the strategic fruits of this deterrence strategy during the different kind of conflicts that Pakistan engaged. intentionally or unintentionally. So the strength of Pakistani deterrence is a kind of guarantee for Pakistani security, and in supporting Pakistani deterrence, Turkey is always a partner of Pakistan. We know that. But the issue is not just, sharing certain intelligence or sharing certain know-how or technology sharing. It is not just limited to that. This mediation effort is also a contribution because, if the two parties can reach a settlement related to border security and related to activities of these radical elements, radical actors, because now, yes, these radical actors, TPP or the other actors, can use Afghanistan as a safe haven because of the difficulties in the recovery process of Afghanistan. But also, these kind of actors, we know that they are, they are proxies in hybrid war, and the regional conflicts usually has such kind of dynamic: hybrid warfare, asymmetrical warfare, proxy warfare. So these kind of militant radical actors can always be used as proxy actors by external parties, whether it is this or that. So they are always instabilizing factor in the relations among the neighbors. It is why such kind of mediation efforts are so important and precious. But apart from that, we know that Turkey and Pakistan has good partnerships in terms of security flourishing or security enforcement.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vişne Korkmaz, for joining us and being a part of the newsroom today. Dr. Hassan, there's important discussion with reference to how the international community is looking at the situation. And I want to understand, because we earlier were also talking about how perhaps we have that hope that the Afghan Taliban regime will understand that this is a problem that for the people of Afghanistan as well and for the region as well. But when we take a look at the international stakeholders, of course, it's welcome for countries like Qatar and Turkey to help mediate and offer support. But do they really understand this as an international problem as well, that there needs to be regional peace and stability, there needs to be a peaceful and stable Afghanistan, terrorist organizations should not exist anywhere, no country should allow their soil be used against any other? These are problems for any country.
I think this is a very crucial question, but the unfortunate part of it is that Afghan Talibans are not governing Afghanistan. They are just like behaving like a militia which has occupied the territory, and then they still think that they are in they are a position now, and I think that is the biggest problem. Otherwise, you see that in one of your questions, you rightly asked that the international community is very much mindful of the situation inside Afghanistan. 3 consecutive reports of UN stating that Afghanistan, there are 20 plus terror syndicate using the Afghan soil against and it is a big threat not only to the region but to the international community also. And then, you know, 2 times the quadrilateral groups which include Pakistan, China, Russia and Iran, they have issued the joint statement stating that Afghanistan soil is, and particularly mentioning the TTP, the BLA, the Jaish al-Adal, Al-Qaeda and Daesh, etc. So the international community knew it very well, but unfortunately Afghan Talibans are now, they are in isolation. You know, no except Russia, I think no country has recognized their government, and it's very unfortunate that they are even not taking care of their own people, that harboring these 5 to 6,000 terrorists using which are using the Afghan soil against Pakistan. It can be a cause of colossal loss for not only the regime but for the Afghan Taliban, because they have already experienced by harboring such a terrorist network, which the world was asking them to vacate them or to hand them over to the countries which they are demanding. But this time it is not the Al-Qaeda, this time they are repeating the same mistake. This time it is the TTP. I'm pretty sure that Qatar and Turkey, if there is an agreement, previously whenever you ask the Afghan Taliban that in Doha agreement you agreed that the Afghan soil will be not used against any other country, especially the US and their allies, but they say it was only with the US. But I think this time Pakistan has achieved a lot by having a Doha agreement with Taliban where it is Pakistan specific. I think Afghan Taliban can no more excused whenever there is this questions of Afghan soil being used against Pakistan. Yeah. So they have to take action. But I think there is still what you call it, the problems are still there, particularly how to monitor and how you have to verify that yes, the Afghan Talibans are taking action against the terrorist networks, whether it's the TTP, the BLA, Majid Brigade or others, and I think how sincere they are in sharing information with Pakistan and how sincere they are on taking care of their own side of the border. So there are questions, I think, and still we have to wait, but we have to be hopeful. There is no choice except to be
absolutely, that is correct. Thank you very much, Mr. Hassan, for joining us and being part of the newsroom. There seems to be a lot, of course, at stake, and we hope that the Afghan Taliban regime also understands and realizes that, because it's very integral not just for Pakistan and the region, but Afghanistan itself. And we really hope that something good comes out of these talks and that we're able to move forward with this. We're now going to be taking a look at our next story that focuses on the very importance of Black Day that is being observed today in Pakistan and, of course, by Kashmiris in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, and the world over, because this is the day where the Indian military forces entered into what they occupy today, and the suffering of the people of Kashmir has been continuing since then. And this is unfortunate because nothing has happened to improve the situation. The deterioration and the suffering of the people of Kashmir across generations has increased over time, and it has seen no end. And even now, the people of Kashmir are absolutely resolved and strong in their commitment and their fight against the atrocities and the oppression of the Indian military forces and their right to self-determination. But how is it that the international community can actually respond to this and make sure that even after the decades of suffering, we are able to go ahead and give that to the people of Kashmir? For this, we've been joined by Abdullah Khan, who's the Managing Director, Pakistan Institute for Conflict and Security Studies. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah Khan, for being part of the discussion today. I'd like your take first on your comments about why is it important for the international community to understand that this is indeed a Black Day and that this is something that is still a requirement, still a reminder for all of us to understand that injustice is still prevailing back since 1947 to this day, where the people of Kashmir are suffering.
Thank you very much for having me on show. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I would like to put some historical record at straight. The state of Jammu and Kashmir on 12th of August 1947, the Maharaja had extended a standstill agreement to Pakistan as well as India. At that time, both Pakistan and India were dominions. Pakistan officially accepted that stance on 15th of August 1947, and subsequently the official buildings and official working in state of Jammu and Kashmir fell under Pakistan. The Pakistani flag was posted on Pakistan on the postal services offices and other offices. So it had officially became part of Pakistan on 15 August when Pakistan accepted the standstill agreement. The other thing is the 27th October is not the date when India entered its forces into Kashmir, because India actually presented as an excuse because it claims that the Maharaja had signed the instrument of accession on 26th October. But actually Indian forces and historical records are evident that Indian forces are there in Jammu and Kashmir as early as October 1947. So the tribesmen were actually, they went to Kashmir in retaliation to Indian incursions and Indian intrusion into Kashmir. So it is not that the other way as it is presented to the world that tribesmen went there, and then India as a retaliation sent its forces to save the Maharaja. It is not the case. The third thing is the India could not produce the real instrument of accession to UN or anybody. The fourth thing I would like to tell that the Indian community and Indian inspired some accounts in Pakistan as well. They say that the obligation of plebiscite was that Pakistan should also vacate its forces from Kashmir. What the matter of fact is that Pakistan at that time had never its forces were there in Kashmir. The UN resolution says that the tribesmen and Pakistani nationals, they will go back, and that Pakistan had actually implemented in letter and spirit back in then 1948. So it is purely India which denied the people of Kashmir their right of self-determination for the last 77 years, and for one pretext or the other. But still, the people of Kashmir, they are waiting for the international community to wake up, to think about them, to listen them. But unfortunately, now the geopolitics and geoeconomics prevail over the human rights and rule base the world. That is the problem now.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Abdullah, the important part, of course, today is to also understand how we move ahead from this point onwards. And Pakistan has, of course, always been taking the time and the effort to making sure that the world hears out what the people of Kashmir are going through. And we've had those years, we've been talking about this on all platforms. But in terms of what the international community can do and what our ask is, how do you think we move forward from here to the next step? Because it's been decades and we've seen that there has been no consequence of any actions. Even the unilateral actions of 2019 still don't see any consequence. So if this keeps on moving in the same manner that it has since decades, won't India be able to just get away with anything that it does in the occupied valley?
So now I would like to remind you what the great Kashmiri leader Sayyid Ali Gilani used to say. He used to say that Pakistan is our advocate, and to resolve the Kashmir issue, we should make Pakistan strong. So when the Pakistan will be strong, the world will listen. You recall what happened in May 2025. Subsequently, we had not requested Trump to talk about Kashmir, but he himself tweeted about Kashmir and the settlement of the Kashmir issue. That is how the power speaks, and that is how the strength speaks. So we have to make Pakistan as much stronger as possible, because we have a legitimate claim on Kashmir. Kashmiri people, they just want to come part of Pakistan. So we have to make Pakistan a prosperous country and Pakistan a stronger country. Other than that, all the efforts we do, they are, obviously they make some level of impact. But unless we are stronger, the way the India did it with its economy, India used its economy and strength to actually deprive the people of Kashmir their right of self-determination. While we can do it is that by making ourselves strong, we can actually play our role to give the people of Jammu and Kashmir their right of self-determination. That is how I see things.
Absolutely. Mr. Abdullah, the integral part of the discussion is also in terms of the help that we can take from the international community. And while, of course, the UN bodies and other international platforms are there for us to speak up, there's also the power of key players in the international community. And you just mentioned the US president, and he's been really talking about his efforts in different parts of the region, ending conflicts, and, of course, putting forward a stance of peace in the international community. Do you think that he particularly can play a role with regards to bringing peace to this region as well?
Definitely, he cherishes his role in bringing ceasefire between Pakistan and India, and actually that is related to Kashmir. The fight between Pakistan and India, the Indian attacks on Pakistan, that all is related to Kashmir. So Trump would definitely like to play a role, and I think he should play. And then the international all players, they should play, because this part of the region is, a ticking bomb. The Kashmir is really a nuclear flashpoint, and the confrontation between Pakistan and India in May 2025 actually proved Pakistan's point that the Kashmir is a flashpoint. And recently, General Asim Munir, Field Marshal Asim Munir, has also highlighted that in his speech. So it is a nuclear atmosphere environment where the India has actually India is right now some accounts have claimed that, and some sources said that India is planning a false flag once again in Kashmir and putting the whole piece of whole South Asia into jeopardy. So I think that is the thing which Pakistan needs to highlight at international level. And now we see the way Pakistan is conducting itself at the international level, we haven't seen in the past many decades. So that is the time, I think, for the Kashmiris as well. And the Kashmiris are also very hopeful right now that Pakistan will play a role, and the world is now listening towards Pakistan. And it is, I think, a right moment for Pakistan to strategize its Kashmir policy very effectively.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah Khan, for joining us and being part of the newsroom today. It is integral for the international community to understand the plight of the people of Kashmir that has been going on for decades, and this is why Pakistan observes a Black Day today along with the people of Kashmir, because it is something that the entire world needs to understand and move forward with, that the right to self-determination is a right of the people of Kashmir, and this is something that they have not been granted for many decades, and so this is somewhere where the international community needs to put its attention to. Now we're going to be taking a look at our last story, the upcoming visit and meeting between the US President and the Chinese Premier. It is important to understand what really is the backdrop of this particular meeting. There seem to be a lot of tensions with regards to economic relations between both the US and China, with a 100% tariff threat being imposed on Chinese goods, also something that was in the air. But it seems that that has changed as the two have met on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, and it seems that a particular legal framework is also on its way for both the two leaders to decide and move forward with. But this is not really something we've been hearing in coming very clearly out from the Chinese side. And so to understand this better, let us speak to the political analyst Faiz Rehman, who's joined us online. Thank you very much, Mr. Faiz, for joining us and being part of the discussion. Your take on the kind of rhetoric that we've been hearing from the US side, which seems to be a lot more enthusiastic, a lot more substantial, a lot more clear, and as to how and what ways this relationship and dynamic is moving forward, particularly in terms of the framework between the two countries. But that's not really what we've been hearing from the Chinese side. How do you think that the two sides compare, and what really is going on?
Thank you, Sana. So thankfully, albeit temporarily, you're going to see a pause. The 100% tariffs that you just mentioned in your intro are going to take place on the 1st. Next month, and it seems that now there's going to be a pause. And of course, the reason, the backdrop of it, Sana, is both economies are so intertwined, so interdependent, that they cannot unilaterally impose their will and their punishments on each other. So finally, I think I see some good sense prevailing, and they have come together to at least agree on some interim framework that yes, they're going to pause the tariffs. And on the Chinese side, the Chinese control about 90% production of rare earth materials that are used in cell phones, batteries, jet fighters, and so many other places. Very important, significant, strategic products that the West produces. So it's a very harsh punishment, very, very harsh retaliation from the Chinese for the US, and basically largely targeted at the West. So now they're coming together, and we see that, yes, they want to further continue to discuss what's going to happen after the November 1st. But Xi and Trump meeting is going to be very pivotal. Another thorn in their way was TikTok. Who's going to control TikTok? Americans, there is a court decision that TikTok cannot operate in America if it's owned totally by the Chinese, and especially with the Chinese government's influence on it. So that's going to be also one of the major agenda points between the two leaders. But at this point, at least there seems some hope that yes, things probably going to change. 100% tariffs for the Chinese product is very painful for the Americans themselves. It's just mind-boggling that you would pay 100% on something that's your day-to-day, that has to do something with your day-to-day life. Even buying a needle will cost you 100% more than what it used to just a few days ago. So it's going to probably be a little saner discussion between the two leaders, but we again see it's not going to be an easy summit. Let's see what comes out.
And you're right in pointing out that this is, of course, going to affect the people of the United States themselves as well. But it seems that Mr. Trump has been keen on putting on these tariffs on different countries, and he's had some really high tariffs on other countries as well. And so perhaps the 100 number is down, but it seems that it's still going to be incredibly high. And so given the way that the Chinese side has responded in the past as well, how much do you think are they going to be willing to make room for the United States, given the kind of atmosphere or environment that exists now? Do you think a political meeting between the two leaders can change all of that?
Sanab, on the other hand, yes, of course, 100% tariffs on the Chinese products, and the Americans depend a lot on those Chinese products. Yes, the Americans depend on those rare earth minerals and some other very strategic products. Yes, that's all true. But at the same time, Chinese also depend on America, on the U.S. for lots of stuff, high tech, artificial intelligence, and other products and other what you call services, and also they they have to make sure that America, being their largest trading partner, remains so in the foreseeable future, because you all already seeing some downturn in the Chinese economy. There are lots of factories which are being affected because of the American tariffs. Unemployment is going up. So it's again, the Americans started this concept in the 90s that the world is a global village. Yes, it's a global village, but everybody is interdependent. It's not, nobody can be totally independent from each other. So finally, they're learning in a hard way that yes, what they used to, what they started a few decades ago, is really holding true as of right now. So they both parties have to back off from their very harsh rhetorics and come and meet each other in the middle for the betterment of the world, not just America and China, for not just two, the largest economies of the world, but also, whatever affects America also affects the world. And so is true for the Chinese. So hopefully they will come together and come and meet each other on a common ground where the entire world can benefit from their agreement, and from their maybe something good coming out of this
Right.
meeting.
Right, Mr. Rehman, there's also the possibility in terms of the Chinese side exploring other avenues within the region as well. And we've seen that a lot in the recent past as well, with China exploring more in the neighborhood and more in the region with regards to how a more economic potential can be utilized, how perhaps trade and investment can be done better, or even to have lower dependency on the dollar. Do you think that all of those options are still on the table?
Yes, of course. As we say, I mean, it's a very generic example and expression that one should not put all their eggs in one basket, and it becomes more important when it becomes diplomacy, especially when you're dealing with global powers. So China doesn't want to do it. Americans never did it. They always keep their options open, and they're learning that the Chinese been exploring, not just exploring, kind of moving forward with all those big projects. For example, CPAC in our own region, and Africa is a major area where the Chinese been very proactive and now have a dominant kind of situation there in their favor. And again, even South American countries, Brazil for that matter, has become a great partner for the Chinese. And so Americans, of course, losing some ground in those places, but Americans still have, I wouldn't say an upper hand, but they have a significant say in the overall negotiations, because they hold lots of technological power. They're still the largest military in the world, and still their tech sector, which is dominated by the Silicon Valley in California, is still very relevant to the Chinese research and development and other countries as well. So it's not totally that both countries have options. They're, as I said before, they're interdependent, and they both can look for different options in their own ways. But at the end of the day, they have to come together and find a solution between these two nations themselves. All the other options are okay, but still they're far away from being very effective. And Chinese cannot replace America by exploring those options. And so is the case with the Americans. They cannot replace China just looking at India or some other cheaper markets where they can manufacture again, take their manufacturing to those smaller and cheaper places. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not gonna be a total replacement. So they have to come talk to each other. Chinese have basically gotten so much stuff out of America. They, in an expression, it's really got them by their neck, and that cannot be grip cannot be removed overnight. Both countries are exploring their options. You see that happening in our region a lot. Just recently we were hearing these stories that the Americans are exploring India as a counterbalance to Chinese influence in the region and outward. But look what's happening there. So I mean, they had to come back to Pakistan and explore other options as well, because that partner didn't come out to be a reliable partner. So if Americans are exploring all these options like India and other places, it's not necessary that they will find some reliable partners in other parts of the world as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Faiz Rehman, for joining us and sharing your insights. It's of course really important to see how exactly these dynamics will flow, but there seems to be a change in what was the earlier sentiment, with at least the threat of 100% tariff on Chinese goods removed for the moment. But it remains to be seen whether or not the two countries will decide on a more comprehensive legal and economic framework. That seems to be on the table, but it will be for sure once we see both the leaders meeting later this week, and then of course how the relationship evolves. So we'll be here to talk more about it, and we hope that it is better for the region and for the international community. That's all that we have from the newsroom today. We'll now see you tomorrow.